see if this shows up here or not. There we go, live now. So, sorry, my voice is coming back slowly but surely. So I can see the chat. There's my "I'll be right back." That looks good. Let's see. It's Alt F5, I believe, to make select custom. But I didn't select custom overlay. It's telling me. Okay, there we are. Now we're on the window. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. If you'll pardon me for a moment, I'm going to check my audio by unmuting the YouTube. And okay, yep, I am actually showing audio there, or hearing audio. All right, so here's Mod Organizer, and I promised on a podcast a couple days ago that I would do a little bit of this. So one of the reasons I'm doing it here live on YouTube is that it's easier because, of course, YouTube just captures it and keeps it. So anybody who wants to from our Facebook group, which I will link in the description. In fact, maybe I can do that. No, I can't do that now because I don't want to show my. Well, it doesn't matter. I can drag it over to my other monitor, but I'll have links in the description to our Facebook group and various other things, including my Mod Watch loadout for this. So this being the main window for Mod Organizer right now, it's showing everything I have both used and unused in this profile. So I've got about 815 total mods. Not all of those are actual mods. A lot of them are patches I've built myself, but a lot of them are. So one of the things we talked about in particular was whether or not to download manually using Mod Organizer. I always do it manually, and so let me just show you a kind of a quick see if there's anybody in the chat right now. I don't see anybody. So I'm watching this on my other YouTube channel. So you're going to see my desktop flashing back and forth. I think I've been pretty careful about keeping things, but I won't be able to actually see who's in. I don't think I can anyway. Actually, I can look at participants maybe. So anyway, we'll do a little quick download of one of the more recent mods. This one came up the other day. I don't really want it, but it's a good example. So we go to It's Better and Breakable Legs. I mean, it's a cute idea, you know, what the heck. And you can read through the description. Of course, you always should. You should read through the description and look for conflicts or anything. This is a pretty simple little texture replacer, I think. So you go to the file sections. Now, if you're using Nexus Mod Manager, it's very safe and easy to use the Mod Manager download because Nexus Mod Manager is native to this, and it handles it very, very well. But you can run into conflicts if you use both Nexus Mod Manager and Mod Organizer. So I always do the manual download thing for all my Mod Organizer, all the games that I use Mod Organizer for, mostly Legacy Skyrim. So we'll just grab that. And then it won't take long. So if you use the downloads folder in Mod Organizer a lot, it'll probably show up in your quick access. If it doesn't, you can just right click, copy the mod, go to Mod Organizer. Now you'll see by the path here, I'm not going to go through all, but I keep my individual installations of Mod Organizer inside the games I'm using them for. So this one is in Skyrim, and this is the root of the Mod Organizer folder where everything is, all my profiles, my mods, and you want to go to the downloads directory and just right click anywhere over here and select paste. All right, so it'll paste that in there. There's a few things. Now I try to keep the downloads directory fairly clean. I only keep stuff in there that I either have to use to rebuild the occasional patch, like this Legacy of the Dragonborn patch collection. If I change my loadout and I'm using Legacy of the Dragonborn, then I have to remake a new patch, selecting the correct mods in the patch. So I'll keep stuff like that and a few other things that I haven't loaded yet. And down at the bottom will appear Breakable Eggs. Now you see the little icon there. When you don't download directly from Nexus Mod Manager using the Mod Manager link, Mod Organizer does not initially know anything about this. So the easiest way to take care of this, take note of this little number here. That is the Nexus Mod number. It may ask you for that. So 88915. You right click in there, select Query Info, and if it does it automatically, so much the better. Otherwise, a little window will pop up that'll say, what's the mod number, and then you just type this in and hit return. So that's that. I am going to drag my browser over to my other monitor so I can keep an eye on the chat, and you don't need to see that right now. So the next thing is how to install. Now anybody who's used Mod Organizer is yawning and falling asleep right now. If you haven't, or if you just started using it and you have or have not watched any of the videos on how to do it, here's how I do it. I double click on the mod and select manual, and all of the videos, including Gopher's tutorials, will tell you that. I'm glancing over at my other monitor. I can see it's about a 6 or 7 second delay here, maybe a touch more than that. I know some people use what is it, Hitbox, is it, for chat? I may try that because I gather it's a little bit quicker, a little bit less laggy. Anyway, don't worry about this. No game data on top level. You just right click there and set as data directory, and then you can see what's inside it. It does turn out it has a small ESP. Once it says looks good down here, you just select OK, and it'll show up. If you sort by priority, which you should always do by default, you can resort when you look for things, but you should always keep it sorted by priority. It'll show up as the last mod. There it is, Better and Breakable Eggs. Then if you want it in your current load order in Mod Organizer, you would just simply check it, and then it'll appear in your plugins list over here on the right. So this is the genius of Mod Organizer over Nexus Mod Manager, and why so many people are constantly crowing about it. So you can filter by all kinds of different things, but when you want to look at what's in your profile, you just filter by the checked mods, and now you can look at your profile, and this includes everything: textures, meshes, ESPs, and all. So if it's just textures, it won't appear as a plugin on the right hand side. For instance, what's a good example of that? Oh, well, here's a good one right here. So if you want to see what's inside a mod, you'll find it. Say this Little Rocks Redone by Fusher. I don't think that has an ESP. So let's double click on it. Look at the File Tree tab, and indeed all it has is meshes and textures. So that's the kind of mod that's extremely safe to load, unload in the middle of a game. Anything with an ESP, which the game itself, Skyrim, has to read into the memory it uses when it boots, and writes into all its saves. Those are the ones that are dangerous to remove mid-game. You can do it if you know what you're doing, or if the mod author tells you you can, but there are some that will totally bork your save if you try to move them in and out while in the middle of a game. But anything that shows just meshes and textures in the file tree is pretty safe. You may end up with the dreaded, purple texture, and that usually just requires a little bit of overwriting or whatever. And now, again, for those of you that were in the podcast chat on Thursday, this is another illustration of what I was talking about when we discussed overwrites. What Nexus Mod Manager will do is it'll give you a little window that says, do you want to overwrite this? Then it gives you several options, and sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out what those options mean. Yes to mod, yes to all, and all that stuff. A mod organizer does that completely differently by giving you a little indication here in this flags column with a plus and a minus and a little lightning bolt to indicate that there is something going on. And with those, you can find out exactly what's being overwritten and what is not being overwritten. Hello, Michelle. How you doing? I'm blabbing about Mod Organizer. Some of this is for Fiona because we had discussed that. So I'm just going over a couple of things that I was talking about on the podcast on Thursday. And I think you already use Mod Organizer or have in the past anyway, so this is probably nothing new for you. But anyway, so if you want to see what the conflicts are, you double click and look at the conflicts tab, and it'll simply tell you what it's overwriting and what's being overwritten by it. Sometimes it's very handy to know. So now, and Michelle, if you have, okay, well, cool. You can go back and watch this from the beginning later if you want, if you didn't catch the start of it, and see some of the other stuff I was talking about. I tend to, even though you can sort by category in Mod Organizer, I tend to keep my this window, the big window on the left, sorted by priority, and I keep the mods in a sort of my own, the way I sort of think of them in my head. So the top priority stuff is the little utility mods and SKSE plugins like One Tweak and Crash Fixes, and other mods that say they need to be at the top of the order, like Cutting Room Floor and the universal patches and stuff like that. Here's the Legendary Edition patch. And then as you scroll down through my mod list, there are other things like audio overhauls, and then all the environmental mods, anything that's big landscape textures, stuff like that. I keep here, and then weather mods, and then it starts getting a little bit more granular with certain, and here's a whole section of towns and cities and things like that. And then if we scroll down a little farther, items, flora, fauna are all through here, and then it gets farther down and into the meat of the stuff. This is all the gameplay mods and stuff like that. And generally speaking, that's fairly safe to do it that way. You just, like I said, you have to keep an eye on overwrites, and if there's any kind of conflict, you'll be able to see what those overwrites do. There are a few utility mods that I keep down towards the bottom, like this Papyrus util here. That is an over kind of a utility that helps mods like wearable lanterns and campfire that create SKSE files. It helps those mods create those files discreetly. Does it tell you exactly what it overwrites, like Vivid Weather? Yes, it does. It'll tell you exactly. So let's go look at one. In fact, we can use Vivid Weathers as an example. Okay, for just so that you know, I'm using a slightly modified version of Vivid Weathers. That's why it says NLVA here. So natural lighting and vivid atmospherics. Okay, so let's look at this one here, and we're going to look at conflicts. So Vivid Weathers overwrites these items here in the top window from stuff that's above it, because in Skyrim and Mod Organizer both, the last mod wins. Whatever it is, whatever's loaded last wins. That's why load order is so important. So when Vivid Weathers is below optimized vanilla textures, which I tend to use, it will overwrite a few things in there. It looks like mostly clouds and sky related stuff. And then it overwrites the clouds from Paper World Map. That's fine with me. Now, this natural lighting and vivid atmospherics over here is overwriting a lot of stuff from Vivid Weathers. And here's my Rudy data, which is my ENB, overwrites the atmosphere.nif, which is the sky, what the sky looks like on a normal day. And you can actually overwrite that even with, there's a few other kind of nice ones out there. And I've added this Obsidian Mountain Fogs, which you can see doesn't show any overwriting. This this was the, I think I was talking about it on the podcast. This was the backward port from SE to Legacy. And it adds some nice, clouds and fogs that just sort of hang around the mountains. It really looks fantasy. It's got a nice look to it. It's not overdone at all. The thing about natural lighting and vivid atmospherics, and by the way, I would highly recommend it, is that and this is another thing that is made a lot easier in Mod Organizer, when you use NLVA with Vivid Weathers, you do not use the vividweathers.esp, the plugin. And so in this optional ESPs tab in Mod Organizer, you simply take the Vivid Weathers ESP, which would normally be in this window down here where it says available ESPs. You highlight it, you click the up arrow, and you put it under optional, and that takes it out of the picture completely. And then natural lighting and vivid atmospherics has its own ESP right here, and that is built on Vivid Weathers and adds a lot of stuff. So you can look that up on the Nexus. If I think of it, I'll put a link to it in the description after I stop this section of the stream. And you can see there's a lot of other things you can do and learn about in this particular window in Mod Organizer. For instance, some of the SKSE plugins, like Crash Fixes, for instance, come with their own discrete INI files, and those can be viewed and edited directly in Mod Organizer right here. So this is there's a lot to this. It's not worth my trying to explain it all, but you can see right here the and I know there's a lag here. I can't tell for what's lagging behind what. I apologize for that if my voice is way ahead of what's showing up on the screen, but you'll see it eventually. And also in Mod Organizer, because again, the way that hello, how you doing? What, Truck? I apologize. I know you know who I am because you're probably from the Facebook group, but I don't know who you are. I think I mentioned that on the podcast the other night. I don't recognize your handle. So who are you? So regarding profiles in Mod Organizer, because they're so, hello William. I didn't mean to out you, and if you feel uncomfortable with that, that's fine. I was just curious how you knew who I was, so I figured you must know me from the Facebook group. So Mod Organizer, again, unlike Nexus Mod Manager, keeps its profiles in a separate directory here inside the Mod Organizer folder. And here they are right here, all the profiles. And each one of these profiles has inside it, and we'll look at this base build one that I'm using right now, has everything. And when you see my ModWatch, I put the link in some of my previous videos. I'll put it again in this one. When you look at the ModWatch profile that I have loaded up there, it's actually built from these lists here. So it uses the plugins list and the mod list and the INI files. So every single profile in Mod Organizer has all the information that Mod Organizer needs, including discrete copies of your Skyrim and Skyrim Pref's INI files. That's something that Nexus Mod Manager doesn't do. So that's why you can keep such such a clear, brick wall between profiles, and why it's so easy to switch. For instance, if I wanted to switch from this profile to one of my Legacy of the Dragonborn profiles that's got all the quests, I just click on it and it takes that long. That's it. It's done. Whereas if you switch profiles in Nexus Mod Manager, sometimes it can take forever. And that's, again, this is an apples and oranges thing. I'm not criticizing Nexus Mod Manager. It's just a different paradigm. And so because Mod Manager essentially uses virtual folders, it just simply does it almost instantaneously. No, it does not mean that at all. Here's the thing. In Mod Organizer, when you have, and this is why I was saying earlier, okay, well, let's go back quick to the Mod Organizer window. So in the Downloads tab over here on the right hand side, these are the mods that are in right now that are currently in the downloads directories. Just a few of them, and I explained earlier why I keep a few of them there. Some of them I haven't installed yet, like Bruma, because they keep updating it and adding to it, and I haven't even really tried it yet. However, go back to the Mod Organizer folder. There's only one. When you install a mod in Mod Organizer, and I demonstrated how to do that a little earlier. When you install a mod, it goes into this directory here, mods. There's only one directory. That's all the installed mods I have. Every single one of them, 800 or so, including it handles patches and things that you make. No. When you make a new profile, it depends on how you make the profile, but essentially when you make a new profile, no mods are selected. I'll show you that in a second. So this list here is all the mods that are appearing in this window here on the left. If I go to down here and just click, it'll show everything. All right, so now I just clicked in there and you can see all the checked and unchecked stuff. All right, so that's all 816 of the mods, some of which are not really mods, they're just patches that I created myself, but anyway, they act like mods, and those are the ones that are in this folder right here. Okay, so so again, now here's so when you create a new profile in Mod Organizer, I'm going to go to my one that I call vanilla-ish, because it has essentially, as you can see, nothing selected. All right, there's nothing there except this little thing here, clean vanilla ESM. Yeah, only 860. Well, about 50 or 60 of those are, like I said, are patches that I've made myself. So, but yes, there's still a lot of mods in there. It's many gigabytes. I keep it on a separate drive. I think you guys probably know about cleaning your master files if you've looked into modding at all and you've watched any of Gopher's videos. And one of the ways that he recommends you handle cleaning your master files, and you do that with TES5 Edit, which is this program up here, is that you'll see this little thing that's called overwrite here. That also appears in the Mod Organizer directory as a folder, and it's there for Mod Organizer to place anything that it doesn't directly know how to handle. And so when you clean an ESM, a master file, in TES5 Edit, the backup and the cleaned master will appear in the overwrite directory. So what you do is you delete the backups or put them somewhere wherever you want. You take all your cleaned ESMs and you right click on the overwrite, you select create mod, and you create a mod out of it. This is one of these amazing little tools that's built into Mod Organizer, and that way these 4 ESMs here are the cleaned versions of the original ESMs. Okay, if this is making sense. So in other words, if I uncheck that, this is complete vanilla Skyrim right here. There's nothing about it that's any different from the game right out of the box. But if I want to, and I can't think of any way I'd want to not have clean if I'm using mods anyway. I would simply find that again wherever it is, and I'd have to sort by mod name to do it. So I sort by mod name, look for clean vanilla ESMs. It's right here. Recheck that in my vanilla-ish profile, and that'll end up being the first mod checked, and it should be down here when I sort by priority. So there it is right there. So that's another one of the super cool things about Mod Organizer. It makes everything very granular and very easy once you sort of fit that the way it does things into your brain. It takes a while. It's a bit of a learning curve, but once you understand the way it works. So if I wanted to create a new profile, what I usually do is I will go to one that I'm not using at all, like this one here, and then I'll go to manage, and it pops up a little window here, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can create a new one by just simply clicking create, and it'll just create an empty profile. You can name it whatever you want. The cleaned DSM mod, so to speak, quote mod unquote, needs to be well, you see it, hang on, you can see it right there. So you've created your, let's just create a new one, and I'll call it test, and okay, and then you always want to make sure that you check this little box here that says local save games. That means that each profile has its own set of saves. Otherwise it's going to try to share saves between profiles, and you really don't want that. And then I close it down, and I've got a new one down here called test. So test is going to be empty. All right, so all it shows is unmanaged, and those are the original ESMs for Skyrim. So this is a perfectly clean, and you can see this right here. If we go to the Skyrim data directory, there will be one thing in there that's not vanilla, and that's this SKSE folder. That's my choice, but if I didn't do that, this is a totally vanilla Skyrim folder. Everything else is handled by Mod Organizer. So we go back to Mod Organizer here. So for the clean vanilla ESMs, I go find it in my and I remember its priority. It's number 52, I think it is. Isn't it? No, it's not. Where is it? Or 50 something or other. Oh, I'm still. Pardon me while I ham-handedly. Well, it's 123. Anyway, you find your clean vanilla ESM, you check it, you go back to your checked mods, then you sort by priority again, and there it is. It should always be loaded right after the unmanaged files. That way it overwrites them, and you can see right here. You see these little red minus signs. This is telling you, if I double click on this and look at conflicts, the following conflicted files are provided by this mod. And so the clean vanilla ESM mod, which contains the cleaned masters for all these other original ESMs, is overwriting them, and it's right there for you to see. So it should always be high up, because lots of other things are going to overwrite it. So if I go back to my test build here, you'll see that the cleaned vanilla ESM, actually the only thing, it's not being overwritten by anything, but it is overwriting several other things. I hope that all made sense. I know it seems complicated, and I'm probably going a little fast, but you can watch it when I'm done with the stream. And so I keep that high up in my load order, and then I just start building from there. And the easiest way is just to build slowly. Pay attention to what the mod authors say, where they tell you to put the mod in your load. And when they say load order and where to put it in the load order, they're referring to the right side over here, the plugins list, and that's the list that see, when you're creating new profiles, how do you handle certain mods that upon installation require other mods? Well, it depends. There's several different ways that might pop up, but presumably you already know that they require other mods. For instance, let's say as an example, Frostfall requires campfire, so you know that, and so I have those both loaded. If, for instance, this is okay. So let me think of, well, the best example I can think of right now, off the top of my head, and this may, let's see, let's look here. So Mod Organizer will tell you over here on the right, as you mouse over the ESPs, all of the things that it requires. So all the things that each ESP requires. So let's look for one, and enabled masters. What I'm looking for is something that's going to pop up a warning if I turn it off, and this is how you know. Yeah, well, here's the Mod Organizer will tell you in its own way if you've got something that requires a master, or well, even if, oh gosh, let's see, if I go up here and I uncheck Dawn Guard, see all those little red things that pop up? All right, so every single one of those is going to tell me, if you look at the little pop-up window there, it says missing masters, dawnguard.esm. So if you have a mod loaded that requires another mod and you don't have that mod, you're going to get this little warning, and that'll give you a good visual indication that you need to go get this other mod, and it probably needs to be loaded before the one, you know, that it's looking for. That's one of the most common causes of crash to desktop on load. You know, sometimes if you load Skyrim and it crashes even before you get to the you know, save, load / whatever menu, that's usually caused by a missing master. The game simply can't load because it runs into a roadblock, can't load a master for whatever, and it just says, yep, that's it for me, I'm out of here, and crashes. So that's what it looks like when you have one mod that requires another and it's not there. It'll show you this little thing, and you mouse over it, and then you just look where it says missing masters, and then you go find the master you need. Mod Organizer handles install, what the modders call FOMODs, install file mods very, very easily. You know, when you go to install a mod and it gives you a whole menu of items to check or uncheck, Mod Organizer handles that pretty much exactly the same way Nexus Mod Manager does. The window will pop up and you'll get a, well, here's a good example, in fact, this Legacy of the Dragonborn patch collection that has a FOMOD installer, and so there's the installer, and if you wanted to make a new patch for Legacy of the Dragonborn, you'd select all your checkboxes, keep going through it, and then it would create and you could rename it. And I think you can do this in Nexus Mod Manager too, but say you have 3 or 4 profiles for Legacy of the Dragonborn. Each one has a different set of mods in it. One of them might have open cities and one of them doesn't. So you'd make different patches, and you'd name, say, the one that didn't have open cities, you'd name it optional mod patches for Legacy - no open cities, or you'd name it after the profile that you were using it for. And once you've done that, it creates yet another quote mod unquote I'm sorry. I was laughing at myself because I'm pointing at my monitor and you guys can't see me point at my monitor. Anyway, so it'll show up. The new installation will show up over here in the unchecked mods on the left side, and you'll just go find it, check it, and add it to your load order. let's see, what other things can I tell you about how Mod Organizer handles things? One thing that I mentioned during the podcast the other day, yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what you do with a new Bruma profile. You'd install any base stuff that you want if you have, and then just install Bruma, and Bruma only perhaps, or all the Bruma, you know. There's tons of stuff out there now. There's all kinds of patches. There's this DLC integration patch for Bruma, and a lot of these are probably out of date because I haven't installed it yet. There's the Bruma unofficial patch, tweaks and enhancements, a whole bunch of stuff for Bruma that you can install for that. Yeah, sorry. It's probably I am streaming at 1080p, but I'll bet it is hard to see when you're with the chat window open. It minimizes the. I can't read it either on mine. Even let's see on my other monitor if I. Yeah, even if I make it, you could do it if you could have it full screen, but then you wouldn't be able to see the chat. Yeah, yeah. So. But yeah, when you go back and watch it, you'll see all the little text. Mod Organizer, like Nexus Mod Manager, allows you to run external programs from within, and but to a degree, it handles some things differently because of the way it keeps the data folder sacred and empty. So when you run something like loot from inside Mod Manager, loot is going to reorder just that profile's load order, where I don't think that is the way it happens in Nexus Mod Manager. So if I run loot now, it's going to, and I'm not going to because I don't want to screw this one up, it's going to reorder just this plugin list, and the right-hand window here corresponds in Mod Organizer. The right-hand window corresponds to the plugins text right here. You'll see it, and the left window corresponds to the mod list dot text. And loot only affects the plugins. It does not affect what happens on the left side of the Mod Organizer main window. Holy crap! Are you serious? Well, be safe, my friend. Whatever is going on. Are you there, or is this something you just saw on the news? I'm going to my news feed right now. Well, it hasn't popped up on Apple News yet. I've only been there. Local Hawaii News posted it. Okay, hopefully it's okay. Good. Thank you. That's the last thing we need. I'd have to switch to start playing Fallout right away. I mean, good God. Now I've forgotten what I was even talking about. I think we. No, that's fine. No, I have low blood pressure. But running programs from inside, it's pretty much the same idea. There's a little spot for it here. I think there's something similar in Nexus Mod Manager. Mod Organizer gives you a few more options for the way things run, but mostly when you run these programs from inside Mod Manager, they only affect the current profile. So let's say if I go for MMO with Skyrim, would I have to reinstall loot? No. You can use the same loot. I keep loot in a directory in my games over here in the root of my D drive in games. That's where I keep loot. And so, well, I'll show you, because I think I can run loot here. And God, that really, there's quite a lag. So when loot opens up, you probably know this. I'm probably not showing you anything you don't already know. It takes a while because I've got such a huge mod list. Up here at the top, there's a this little checklist that gives you the games that loot can so you just select your current game. In this case, it'd be Skyrim, and then it will automatically handle, because Mod Organizer takes over. It'll automatically handle just the profile that you're working with. You just got to remember to make sure that you select the right game. That's all. Same thing goes for TS5 Edit and Rybash. If either of you guys have tried making your own patches yet, which is something William, I was about to get to that. Thank you for asking. So I was about to say I don't use Rybash anymore. I use Mator Smash now. And so let me ask you, before I launch into this, do you want me to give a quick demonstration of Mator Smash? I'll wait and see before I do anything else. Okay. So for Michelle, who may or may not know, Mator Smash is a, well, let's back up even a little farther. So before Mator Smash, the sort of the accepted the accepted norm for getting a stable loadout was obviously picking your mods well, getting your load order set correctly, managing your overwrites correctly. If you're really concerned about graphics and you don't have a very powerful system, using EN Boost, which is the non-graphics mode of ENB, which makes the video part of the game much more stable, and then at the end creating user-made patches. And the way that we did that for a long time was to make a merged patch with TES5 Edit, and then to make a bashed patch for the leveled lists. And the reason you want to make a patch for leveled lists, I think I've mentioned this before, Michelle, is that again, the paradigm that the last mod wins means that, you know, leveled lists are how the game places items in barrels, for instance. It's how the game places value on armor and weapons and so on and so forth. And so if one mod overwrites the previous mod, then you can have odd things happen to, like a 0 value on a weapon or something like that. So you want to be able to have a utility that will resolve conflicts. And that's what Rybash does, or did. Now, I am not an expert in TES5 Edit, and any really experienced modder is going to tell you the only way to really resolve conflicts is to go in and find them and edit them yourself in TES5 Edit. I have never attempted that because that's beyond my skill level. But creating patches is the next best thing. So Mator Smash is an attempt at making an application that will do everything for you, both what TS5 Edit did and what Rybash did. So let's, since I already have one here, and this is going to show actually several things that Mod Organizer does. I already have one for this particular build, but let's see, do I have one here for this? I do. Let me, And let's see if I have any saves on this one. Yeah, this is my broken build, my test build that I broke on my own stupidity. Does this one have a? Let's see if this one has one yet. No. All right. So. Yeah, it's simpler and more complex at the same time. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm going to enable all here. Make sure I'm in the right thing. I'm going to. All right, here's another little aside that you can try to assimilate. If you see this little broom icon in the mod organizer, it means that these are dummy ESPs, and this only applies to the legacy version of mod organizer. It does not apply to the version that people are using for SE. They handle what are called archives differently. You guys probably have heard of BSAs. This version of mod organizer will manage archives for you. The newer versions will not. So when you have a little broom like that, you uncheck them in the plugins list and make sure that they're checked in the archives tab. All right, that's just a little aside. All right, so back to Mater Smash. Let's pretend, which it isn't, but let's pretend that I have everything ready for this particular profile, and I'm ready to create my ultimate patch using Mater Smash. So I go to Mater Smash, I make sure I'm in this profile, I select it here. I could put it up here in the shortcut list, but I haven't, and then you just select Run. And it'll run Mater Smash. It gives me an option to select the game that I want to run it from. In this case, it's going to be Skyrim. Select OK. This is my plugin list. Make sure that everything's checked there that I want to be checked. Everything is. Click OK, and let Mater Smash load. It takes a second or two. Now, I look over here on the left side of it, and I make sure that everything is in this sort of maroon color. There's nothing grayed out in there, and there's a few things grayed out. So I'm going to right-click over there, go to Smash Settings, Smash, Smash.all. Oh, I'm an idiot. First, I have to select them all. Do not select the Skyrim.esm. Select everything under it, from update through the bottom with shift click. Then go to Smash, Smash All, and you'll see they're all highlighted now. Then, if you've used Mater Smash before, you need to delete the previous patch. Get it out of there. Go back to your plugins window, make sure everything's highlighted correctly, and that Skyrim.esm is not highlighted. Right click, select Add to Patch, New Patch, and then I try to name these patches by the profile I'm using. So in this case, it's going to be SFAS, which is Skyrim Fits and Starts. And I'm using NLVA, and then base build. DBM is Dragonborn Museum, which is Legacy of the Dragonborn mod, and then with quests. It doesn't like hash marks. And then I just copy that, and I name the ESP the same thing. Oops. No, not that. And sorry, I just dumped my clipboard. All right, there it is. All right, so that's all named. It's ready, and you click OK. And now the little hammer icon up here turns colors, which means it's ready to do patch. So you click that, and it just does its thing. Yes. And William, that is exactly where I learned how to do this. Was Gamer Poet's tutorial, and um, well, it seems to have a problem. What did I do wrong here? I've got something out of order. What did that say again? Oh, right. Well, that's not an error I've had before, so I apologize. I don't honestly know. And that's unfortunate because if I can't figure it out, I'm not going to waste you guys' time trying to figure out why it's doing that. Did I miss? I'm just going to close out of here. And I must have missed something. Or let's do it on an easier profile. Here's another profile. I have a bashed patch here. We'll delete that. And we'll delete the mod data. Check these. Enable all. Hopefully this one will work. Apologies for the little misstep there. Alright, so let's try running Mater Smash again. Alright, so select Smash settings, smash all. No patches are in there. New patch. I'm just going to call it new patch. I'm not even going to bother with the loading here. And then let's run this. Alright, now it's actually working. So this takes a minute or two. It'll get to the end and then it's going to start loading records or smashing records. And that can take a little while. There's 5,807 records, so this will probably take, I mean, it goes fast, but it'll take a minute. So grab yourself a cup of coffee. In fact, I'm going to grab a seltzer. I'll be right back. It's getting there. It's up to 4,000, 5,000. And done. All right, now, once it's done, you want to select Show Details. And down at the way at the bottom, and Gamer Poets mentions this in his tutorial, you want to find this little section here that says plugins merged into the patch that are now redundant. And what I do is I'll just clip that out of there, copy it, and then open up my Notepad++, which you can't see on your screen, and I create a new file. Actually, I'll pull it over now because there's nothing visible. I paste into that, and then I will name that file again by the either by the profile or whatever. So I'll just call it Varolus and save it to my desktop. And then what I'll do with that is, I'll show you in a second. So now I'm done. I've clipped that out of there. I know which are the redundant plugins, and I'll just hit close and X out of Mate or Smash, and it'll clean itself up. Now, here is, let's see that. Not all the time, no, only when you run it. So when you run it, well, it's not like Loot, which has a master list that's constantly being updated by the Loot team. Mate or Smash looks for different things. It doesn't need to have updated mods. It looks for certain kinds of records that need to be resolved. So it's looking into the mods you have and saying, okay, I see, this record overwrites that record. It shouldn't, and it changes it. How this guy Mater the Eternal created this, that's magic. That's why programmers are programmers, and in real life I work with wood, leather, and glue. So, and sometimes cameras. But anyway, so it doesn't need to have a constantly updated master list. So once you've and this is actually really good, because this is going to illustrate something else that Mod Organizer does. I sort of alluded to it before. I'm going to make sure I go back to the SKSE. Now, what we have, make sure I'm sorted by priority here. At the bottom of, should show up anytime now. There it is. All right. The overwrite folder always shows up at the bottom of your left window pane once you get it to refresh itself. And so the first thing we want to do is double click and look inside it. And so, pardon me. Let's cover that later. I have to close out Mod Organizer first and then reopen it, so it'll refresh itself. All right. Now, sorting by priority, I'm going to go to unchecked. Down here at the bottom, see this says new patch? That is the mod that Mater Smash created. Inside it, you will find all of the text files you need to know and the patch itself. And you treat it just like any other mod. You would check it, make sure that it shows up in the bottom of your plugins list over here, new patch. And now you have your Mate or Smashed patch. And you can see when I roll over it, the text file is huge. Yes, things have changed a great deal on some levels, and on some levels they haven't. I mean, with libraries of sort of pre-done stuff, if you know what you're doing. Well, I would hesitate to use the word every or the words every conflict. It tries to resolve as many conflicts as it possibly can, and so you're seeing the mouse over. I'm mousing over it. There we go, and I've held it there for quite a while. So as I was answering your question and talking, once you can see this in full screen, you might be able to read. It basically looks at every mod you have installed and tries to resolve conflicts that it finds. And so far, I've found that it works really well. There are a couple of caveats, and my destroyed and much missed Relic Hunter test build here, which is the one I was streaming with a few weeks ago, Let's see. After making the patch, Baijin Serana had no body. Not until I moved that mod below the patch did her body appear. Well, that kind of makes a certain amount of sense, and it could be you could try rerunning the patch, or you could try excluding Serana from the patch at the very beginning there. If there are at the first window when you start Mater Smash, you get that window with checkboxes in it. You could just uncheck Serana, and then Mater wouldn't even try messing around with that particular mod. That might be your best bet. But here's a little tip. Do not, because of the way Mater Smash works. In other words, it creates a mod by itself. You have to refresh your mod organizer window. You have to make sure the mod appears. You have to make sure it's checked and put it in your load order. Because it's that kind of a mod, it's a little different from a bashed patch. It's very sensitive to new load orders, and it's also very sensitive to names. So because of my experience with this particular profile here, this test build, which I completely borked, because without thinking I treated it as if it was one that I had been using Rybash with. I added a couple of mods, I did some stuff, I ran loot on it again, and I forgot to rebuild the Mater Smashed patch. I got some crashes, and then I did the next worst thing, which was to make a new Smashed patch with the changed load order and name it something else, and it completely borked everything. So if you use Mater Smash, I would say test your loadouts. Once you've used it, be very, very careful of changing things, and make sure that you keep the load order exactly the way it was, and don't rename the patch anything different, or the game will detect that you're missing a mod when you reload it. Whereas with the bashed patch, it doesn't really care, but it does care when you redo the Mater patch. So it's a little more sensitive that way. That's my personal experience, and to my great sorrow, because I really liked this character. He was a big, bold, brassy, two-handed sword wielder, and I was having a lot of fun with him. But anyway, so such are the risks and vicissitudes of modding. So I don't shed too many bitter tears. But yeah, well, it's not nightmarish. It's just it's user error, live and learn, right? So with this latest one that I'm working with now, this base build here, I've been playing with him. He's sort of my my recreation of the guy that I lost. But I just make sure that I don't mess around with it too much. If you can add textures and meshes, you just don't want to add ESPs without being really, really careful. And you'll notice in mine here, Warburg's 3D paper world map is below the Mater Smashed patch, and that's for the same kind of reason you had to move the Serana mod. Warburg's is notoriously sensitive about where it is. It has to be absolutely at the very bottom, or it just does really bizarre things when you try to look at the map. So it's actually something that probably the next patch I make, I'll just make sure that I just uncheck it and keep it out of the Mater Smashed patch. Well, guys, my voice is getting a little froggy again, and I think it's time for my afternoon nap. So I'm gonna hop on later and stream some actual gameplay and have some more fun. But I hope some of this helped and made some of it seem a little less scary. I know maybe Yeah, I get some honey. Maybe I'll mix a little bourbon in with that honey, and everything will be fine, right? Um, but I hope some of it made sense if you go back over it and watch it again. Um, and Again, thanks for watching, and I'm glad that we didn't need Fallout. So take care, guys. Maybe I'll see you later. I'll be on later this afternoon.